YouTube channel. My name is Barry. Today we're going to be watching The Ape That Couldn't Be Contained. I had this recommended to me on the Discord, so if you ever want me to watch something, just, you know, join the Discord, plop it in the React Andy channel, and hopefully we'll give it a go. Yeehaw, let's go!
Welcome to a behind-the-scenes VIP visit to the world's most famous zoo,
What?
the San Diego Zoo.
I've been there! No way! I made the staff mad last time I was there. Oh!
Ah, the San Diego Zoo, the world-famous wildlife haven bursting
It's
with
really
vibrant
big.
life.
Is this
Nestled in the
Zoo Books?
Balboa Park, this sprawling 100-acre zoo is home to thousands of rare and endangered creatures
he's
from
so
across the globe. Pulling in millions of visitors every year, each exhibit offers an up-close glimpse into the wonders of the animal kingdom. With its lush tropical landscapes and immersive habitats, the San Diego Zoo really is a full-on adventure.
And it's huge. Like, the zoo takes you forever to walk through. And they also have like a bus that people drive, and you can sit on the very top and look at all the animals. The San Diego Zoo is really nice. I've been, I think, twice.
Well, on the 13th of February, 1971, San Diego Zoo welcomed a new addition. An orangutan was born. The son of the zoo's Maggie and Bob, it was decided he would be named Ken Allen, after the two
Ken
zookeepers
Allen?
that would go on to care for him in his early years,
Aww.
Ken Willingham and Ben Allen. And this eighth
so
time at San Diego Zoo would go on to be nothing shy of remarkable.
The editing is really
after
good.
his birth, young Ken Allen didn't have the greatest start in life.
No.
It appeared that his mother was sadly failing to properly care for him, nearly accidentally smothering him. So, the team at San Diego Zoo felt it was best for Ken's safety to separate him from his mother and place him in his own cage.
His mom hated him, so they put him in jail? Oh my god, what a crazy origin story. He's either gonna be a superhero or a supervillain at this point.
Well, as a young adolescent, Ken seemed to quickly acclimatise to his enclosure and loved the company of his zookeepers and other humans alike. A very sociable, intelligent young ape. And like all young playful apes, Ken was quite the troublemaker. But it was at nightfall when Ken would really shoot into action. One night, as the San Diego Zoo closed its doors and Ken's keepers were heading home after a long day's work, it seemed that Ken didn't particularly like the idea of being left confined to his small metal prison.
Dogs are kind of like that too, which is why my dog's in my room right now, because if she is like just left out the entire time while I'm streaming, she just goes absolutely bonkers. So he's hanging out on the floor.
Well, Ken had learned to unscrew the bolts of his cage to free himself, and once out, he'd just roam around his nursery. So the next morning, as staff arrived, there they found Ken playing with his toys as his cage sat dismantled behind him. Assuming there'd just been some sort of structural error with the cage framework, the zookeeper simply put it back together again, and as night drew in, they led Ken back into the newly assembled cage. Well, Ken had made a note of this. So that night, as their shift ended and the zookeepers left, once again, Ken started to unscrew the bolts of his cage.
You're right. He's gonna bolt again.
And simply messed about.
Oh! He's getting up the monkey business, or I guess ape business.
He loved the freedom, but this time was different. Ken had learned that the morning was when the zookeepers would start their shifts and return, and he
knows their
wasn't going to be
schedule?
caught out again. So after yet another night of freedom, as the sunlight slowly crept in through the window of his nursery, this time around, Ken climbed back into his cage and started re-securing the bolts as if nothing had happened. This way, when the keepers entered the nursery that morning, there they saw Ken sat well behaved in his cage as if he'd been there the entire night.
Look at his cheeky little smile, too. He looks like he's going to picture day at school.
Well, Ken's master plan would go on for a few nights. He would unscrew the cage, play in the nursery, return to the cage, and then reassemble it. Everything was going swimmingly. But there was one small thing that Ken didn't account for.
He didn't know that there was a zookeeper in electrical.
Eventually, the zookeeper started to notice that when they'd return in the morning, whilst Ken was sat content in his cage, his toys weren't in the places that the staff had left them the night before. So, with a hunch, that night, the keepers said their goodbyes to Ken and they pretended to leave. But rather than heading home, they sat quietly outside of Ken's nursery and waited.
They set
and
him
after
up!
a while, as they expected, they started to hear noises. So they abruptly burst through the door, and there they saw Ken, cage dismantled, playing with his toys. So the jig was up. Ken was placed into a new, much sturdier cage, and that put a stop to his late night antics once and for all. But trust me when I say, this was merely the beginning when it came to Ken Allen. Things for San Diego Zoo would get far, far worse.
Is he gonna threaten the zoo? He's gonna write like a threatening Kira letter. Yeah, how's he gonna get revenge?
Oh, there we go. 7th pint of the night. Right, Mick, I'm off, mate. I'll be back at 8 a.m. tomorrow.
On Twitch, he's an emote.
Who the monetized video are you? Listen, this is very important. We have to hurry. You are Dave, right? Yeah. Listen to me, Dave. I have a job for you. Oh, no, you don't, mate. I don't do jobs. I'm unemployed. Just listen to me, Dave. I've been sent by my higher-ups, and you've been recruited to perform ad reads from now on. Here, take this device.
Oh
now,
my god, he also has a head tattoo. Do those hurt?
Travel to any point in history. But your first mission is you must go throughout time and spread the word of War Thunder, the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and is now available on PC.
How come every video I watch always wants me to get War Thunder?
Hey, you, what are you doing? We're building the pyramids of Giza, mate. Well, us and those lot over there.
How did they even do that?
Mate, that sounds proper boring. Have a spin on this. War Thunder. You can take command of over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships.
I always ask this, but can you put anime girls on the side of these planes in the game? There has to be mods, right? They always say there's 10 million players.
Ranging from biplanes, armoured cars, to fighter jets, and main battle tanks of today. Well, my today, that is. You guys don't even know what a tank is yet. I think you find...
You can? Okay, put me on one. Was that good?
Hey, mate, those lot over there told us what they are.
This War Thunder game is amazing. The incredible detailed vehicles, the realistic graphics, and authentic sound effects place you right at the helm of the most powerful war machines.
Yeah, lads, sack this pyramid thing off. We're grinding War Thunder from now on. The first competitor, Sergius, the destroyer of men. And the second competitor, Dave, the destroyer of his own liver. I'm going to turn you to mush, and there's nothing you can say to stop me. I mean, if you tried War Thunder, join a worldwide community of over 7 million players in an epic PvP battle. Delve into the breathtaking experience.
I love PvP because I like knowing I'm better than other people at the game.
Discover there's simply no game better suited for fans of military history.
Asshole.
Oh, fair enough. Next up, let's welcome John, Paul, Ringo, George, and Dave, the Beatles. So, chaps, what would you say is your favourite part of the music-making process? I mean, you know, it's definitely the creativity of it all for me. It's definitely the peace and love. It's gotta be connecting with the fans. It's just the love of the whole thing, you know. I mean, to be completely honest, I was playing War Thunder the entire time, which features a comprehensive customisation system with countless camouflages, historical markings, and decorations for all types of vehicles, including community-created ones. This is one small step for man, but one giant leap for the fact that you can play War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Use the link in the description or in the pinned comment to sign up. New players or those that haven't played in 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack on PC or console.
I think I would probably do pretty good in space just because one time I had astronaut ice cream and I could probably eat it.
Console that includes multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive vehicle decorator, the Eagle of Valor, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of a premium account. All available for a limited time only, so don't miss it. Now, if you don't mind me, I'm off to have a free pint. So, back to the video.
Yay,
so skip forward a few years, and the zookeepers felt it was finally time for Ken to be shown off to the public. And
wait, was Ken that big before? I don't remember. He kind of grew up a lot during the ad.
He was placed into the heart of the zoo exhibit that had opened just 3 years prior. But when Ken first moved in, he wasted no time in turning his hand to mischief. When a film crew turned up to document the gorilla enclosure next door, Ken decided
was he not built?
Turning his hand to mischief. When a film crew turned up to document the gorilla enclosure...
Wait, look at him! You think he can bench like at least like 450 or something?
Next door, Ken decided it'd be a good idea to hurl rocks at them. And then when he ran out of rocks, he used his own shit. And keepers would also report seeing Ken fashioning branches into DIY ladders that he would then thump into the ground with his own fist, climb up to the top, and then climb all the way back down. Now, it's important to note that Ken wasn't alone in this enclosure. Keepers decided that maybe it was best that he had some company this time around. So they placed him in an enclosure with a bunch of other orangutans. So there was a number of female orangutans.
I knew he would have a harem. Honestly, he deserves it.
Ken and one other male named Otis. Now, if you know the first thing about the animal kingdom, 2 males and a bunch of females doesn't usually end too well. To put it bluntly, Ken grew to despise Otis. I'm talking cold-blooded hatred, resulting in numerous feuds. So the zookeeper's idea of giving Ken some company had seemingly backfired. So
well, that's because they put another guy in there. They should have just let Ken have, like, you know, all the ladies he's ever wanted.
They cut their losses and moved Ken into his own enclosure. So there he was, alone once again. Now let's have a think, shall we? Last time Ken was alone, what did he do? That's right, baby. He started planning his next escape. So on the 13th of June, 1985, a 14-year-old Ken Allen managed to climb up the wall of his enclosure and got out. Now,
is 14 old for a big ape? See, I didn't say monkey this time. I have rewired my brain. I asked in chat and everybody told me that monkey have tail and ape have no tail, only butt cheeks. So, I said ape.
Now, what exactly did Ken do after his valiant escape? Well, he very confidently just strolled around the zoo amongst visitors, minding his own business.
Nobody said
observing
anything?
the other animals. Oh, look at the elephants. Wow, look at that giraffe. He wasn't aggressive or agitated. In fact, Ken loved the attention. Well,
they should take him on a walk. I think he would like that. And like maybe like hold his hand and be like, okay, we're gonna go see the giraffes now. And he'd be like, woo, woo, woo.
This escapade went on until the zookeepers were made aware of Ken's escape. Now they knew that if Ken was to attack anybody, they would be forced to put him down.
Oh, I forgot. Why did I forget that they can attack people? In my like headcanon, I was like, put him in a hat, put a little shirt on him, walk him around. He'd have a great time. Yeah, I forgot that they can attack or whatever.
Because he is a wild animal. The potential is there to do harm, to hurt somebody badly.
So slightly panicked, they hesitantly approached Ken, but he caused no trouble at all. And then they quickly led him back to his enclosure, which he happily complied with.
Wow.
Now, whilst Ken Allen was chilled, enjoying his day spent roaming the zoo, the same couldn't be said for the zoo's staff. They were having a meltdown. They knew if news of Ken Allen's escape went public, they would have a PR disaster on their hands.
Is 1985 before Facebook? They lucked out. You know, if this happened now, 9 million TikToks, 9 million YouTube shorts, 9 million React Andes, it would have been over.
But of course, they have no control over the news leaking. I mean, there was an orangutan walking amongst members of the public. That does turn heads. So as the news broke, the staff at the San Diego Zoo prepared for the worst. But rather than the expected PR disaster, Ken Allen became somewhat of a local hero. Whoa! And it actually worked in the zoo's favour. With everyone reading the news about Ken, people just had to see for themselves.
Yeah,
and the zoo
good idea.
attendance skyrocketed.
They had, the last time I went to the San Diego Zoo, when I was buying tickets, they told me that the pandas were back. And I said, where did they go? And the lady went, oh, they went back to China, but now they're back in the US. And I said, oh, do they speak Chinese or do they speak English? She stared at me and went, here's your ticket.
Well, despite the media buzz, behind the scenes, San Diego Zoo were doing all they could to prevent another escape. Sure, the attention was great, but one instance of an escaped ape was enough for them. Zoo officials decided they needed to step up security of Ken's pen.
Yeah, probably.
So they installed a moat around the perimeter of his enclosure.
Oh,
and
wait, but he can swim, right?
50-foot wall.
Okay,
this
he
was
can't
bound
climb
to
that
stop
high.
Ken in his tracks, and thankfully, it worked. Crisis
Wow.
averted. The security measures successfully contained Ken Allen. For all of a few weeks, that is. Because on the 29th of July, 1985, Ken managed to escape again. He somehow made his way over the moat, and just like his last escape, the 250-pound orangutan effortlessly scaled his enclosure wall. And yet again, he did the same, just casually strolling around the zoo amongst visitors, even posing for selfies. But this time,
he was in a picture? Maybe they thought he was like in a costume or something. I don't know. Would you guys think if an ape was just kind of walking around the zoo, you'd probably think he was just a guy in a suit, right? But that was a real one.
there was one more thing Ken wanted to do on his day trip. So as the zookeepers were once again made aware of Ken's escape, they frantically ran out to the zoo for a second time to capture Ken. And there they found him, stood over an enclosure. But this time, he wasn't looking at the pretty
peeing?
elephants. There Ken was, picking up rocks and pelting them at none other than Otis. Ken's
He's like his biggest hater. Honestly, F you, Otis. You took his harem. You took his harem. He deserves it.
ex-roommate and sworn enemy. Well, this second escape had only escalated the media hype around Ken. The already packed San Diego Zoo had more and more visitors each day, all eager to see Ken Allen, the ape that could not be contained.
Ken's my Oshi.
But yet again, as for the staff at San Diego Zoo, whilst thankful for the increase in ticket sales, they simply could not let this happen again. 2 escapes was already far too many.
They're gonna have to put, like,
were
flamethrowers.
Really getting silly now. Every effort the zookeepers had applied to try and halt Ken's escapes was failing. They needed to really step things up this time.
Give him a computer and give him Steam Summer Sale. Then give him $20 USD. That'll keep him occupied.
I'm around. So for the time being, they moved Ken into an indoor pen that reportedly had a black and white television that featured just one channel. So as Ken sat and watched TV, the staff started to draft a plan to further beef up Ken's main enclosure and increase security. Fortify the place properly. So as the staff gathered around and started pitching ideas, meanwhile, outside of zoo grounds, after the media had caught wind of the second escape, things had gotten bonkers.
My question is, why did they not just have somebody watching him? Like, just take, like, an employee and have them just sit there and watch him. That would probably be an okay idea, because the minute he starts climbing the wall, at least you have, like, somebody with eyes. I don't know.
Ken Allen had become somewhat of an icon. Free Ken Allen t-shirts started popping up.
Free Ken Allen! Get him out of there! Please, please, please! Give him to me, I'll watch him.
All over the place. $14 a pop. Bumper stickers appearing on cars all over San Diego. A group of pensioners formed a Ken Allen fan club aptly named the Orang Gang, complete with a monthly newsletter. And maybe the strangest outcome of Ken's fame, a San Diego-based psychiatrist named Dennis Gersten released a single, The Ballad of Ken Allen. Yeah, shit was getting weird.
Oh, that's
Headlines
so cute.
started referring to Ken Allen as Hairy Houdini. And
that's what you guys used to call me because you never saw me on stream and you were wondering where I was.
name that fit him perfectly. So back at the zoo, with all eyes on them, the staff started their efforts to beef up Ken's main enclosure once and for all. So with the master plan finished, they started by surrounding the wall with a powerful electric fence. Then they hired a pair of professional rock climbers to try and scale the enclosure wall so staff could seek out the foot and handholds and patch over them, making a chance of a route to the top virtually impossible.
Making the walls smoother, straight up.
They should install Sen's Fortress on the walls. Like, the minute he tries to climb up, swinging axes, giant snake men with spears. That'll keep him occupied.
And down, taking all the little bumps and ridges out of the wall that he could possibly get a handhold on.
Also, the keepers had noted that Ken would only really ever attempt to escape when he was in an enclosure alone. And of course, when they attempted to put him in an enclosure with other orangutans, the only real issue was the fact that there was another male.
Don't do that!
So, zookeepers decided that the best course of action would be to introduce some female orangutans into the upgraded enclosure, and no other males, in the hopes that the company might calm him down. So with the big security renovations finally complete, they decided it was time to free Ken from his indoor prison. He'd watched enough black and white TV, and they released him into the newly upgraded enclosure. But that wasn't all the staff had up their sleeve.
This next part's gonna be shocking, and it's not the fence.
This time, they decided it was best that they monitored Ken. See what he got up to.
That's what I
Learn his
said!
habits, see if he was acting fishy. But this is Ken Allen we're talking about. This is one smart orangutan. He knew that when he saw humans dressed in zoo uniform, he couldn't act out or pull any wise moves.
They're gonna put him in the suit that Patrick wears that makes him look like a gorilla.
As he knew they were watching.
Please,
but this time, the staff were one step ahead of Ken. So to get round this, they would disguise themselves in normal, casual clothing. Blue jeans, Hawaiian shirts, sunglasses, as if they were just regular old bystanders visiting the zoo.
Undercover
that
cops.
way, they could watch Ken and he'd have no idea they were members of staff. A tactic that the zoo coined
he can smell it on them.
tactics. Okay, one gold star for that one, San Diego Zoo. I'll give it to you. So how did it all go? Well, their plan
horribly
worked.
wrong.
Ken didn't try to escape. So there Ken was, busy not escaping, relaxing, sitting around. Oh, he has a crowbar. It seemed that Ken had just...
Half-Life? How did we give him a crowbar before we got a new Half-Life game? What the hell?
discovered the tool when it had been seemingly left behind by a construction worker. Not particularly wanting to approach a crowbar-wielding orangutan, the zookeepers watched over helplessly. But to their relief, Ken threw it aside, landing at the feet of fellow orangutan, Vicky. Now, knowing she was far calmer than Ken, the keepers weren't too worried about her, until, that is, they heard a large crunch and Vicky had used the crowbar to try and pry open the glass of the enclosure window in an attempt to free herself and Ken. That's right, Ken had seemingly upped his intelligence level and was training other orangutans.
He's their teacher on how to escape! Oh no! Oh my god, he's so smart!
To aid him in his escapes.
Pretty clever, as if they learned from the master himself.
There must be some kind of orangutan communication going on here.
Thankfully, for zoo staff, this time around, they caught Ken and Vicky almost instantly before they made it out to the public and then re-secured the window. So after making sure all the loose tools were secure and feeding the construction worker to the alligators, it seemed that Ken, for the most part, was behaving himself. They did catch him one time, managing to scale the wall, despite the rock climber's best efforts, but when he eventually reached the electric fence, he lightly brushed it, got quite the zap, and quickly made his way back down. The San Diego Zoo had outdone themselves.
You know what they're gonna do next? They're all gonna stack on top of each other, wear a top hat and like a San Diego Zoo outfit, and then they're gonna get out.
Finally, all the work the staff had put in had seemingly worked to keep Ken Allen at bay. Ken started to settle down, and the media started to report that he'd become somewhat of a family man, and it looked as if his escapes had finally been
Just
put
let
to
him out,
rest.
he earned it.
But it seemed that Ken was simply buying his time.
Oh
because
my
2 years
God!
later, the pump that fueled the moat around Ken's enclosure had conveniently clogged, drying up the moat completely. And this allowed for a clear and easy path to the wall. Ken then sat patiently and waited for the moment that the power to the electric fence was shut off for maintenance. How he knew this is still a mystery, but with the timing being perfect, he capitalised, making a bolt for it. And once again, after his 2-year hiatus, he'd come out of retirement, and it was like he'd never stopped. Back to his old ways, he strolled around the zoo, taking photo after photo, everybody raving that they had seen Ken Allen, Hairy Houdini, the ape that could not be contained. But this time around, when he saw the guards approaching in the distance, Ken wasn't as calm as he was during his other escapes. He made a bolt for the lion enclosure, dodging and weaving, making the most of his freedom. Crowds cheered.
He's like Cartman at Casa Bonita. Cliff divers! Okay, you can take me now.
He was really pushing the boat out this time. This was the furthest away Ken had ever been from his...
Wait, he was actually like the emote of the ape driving the golf cart. Wait, oh, that is him. Wait, is that him?
Pushing the boat out this time. This was the furthest away Ken had ever been from his enclosure. Fearing that Ken was going to climb into the lion enclosure and be their next meal, staff were hot on his heels, and after 3 long hours, he was eventually cornered by gun-wielding zookeepers and led back to his enclosure. Luckily, the zookeepers knew that the only reason the escape was possible was due to the moat drying up and the power shutting off, and once repaired, the fortifications that had worked for 2 years would still be up to scratch. But while secure, what the keepers had underestimated once more was the fact that Ken had roommates. Things had been going great, but we all know how things go when you surround Ken with female orangutans. Ken isn't exactly the best influence on the ladies, but it wasn't Ken this time. One day before the zoo opening time, Jane and Kumang had found a 5-foot-long handled squeegee that a cleaner had accidentally left in the enclosure.
How? Guys, how are we leaving, like, tools for them? How are you guys doing this?
And inspired by Ken, the two somehow used it to climb up the wall and hop out. Jane apparently wandered into an employee-only lounge area, finished off some of their sodas, and was found roaming around near the flamingos, where she had to be tranquilized and returned to her enclosure.
Oh my God.
Thankfully, Kumang willingly returned. But while she was the tame ape this time around, it seems that Kumang wanted her own chapter in the adventure book.
No.
She managed to escape 2 additional times by shortening the electric fence wires with a twig. The first...
How? How do they know that's how it works? They're so smart. hurt.
Time she was found sat playing in a garden bed where she was tranquilized. Then the second time she was sat outside the monkey enclosure, and when approached by staff, she climbed on top of the bird sanctuary where she was tranquilized again. In fact, Kumang's mischief actually got the group put in solitary confinement once more, whilst the keepers made the wiring system more complex, upgraded the doors, and went around with an electromagnet to make sure there was nothing they could use to aid an escape.
Maybe they need, like, more stuff to do, honestly. Like, they're nice about going back, but I think they're just really bored. Like, they need a job. Not a job. They need, like, a hobby, okay?
So even though Ken was in retirement, he was still seemingly costing the zoo money through his students. At this point, the zoo had reportedly spent a whopping $45,000.
Yeah, you know what? They should put some balloons in there and give them, like, glue guns and stuff.
On security over the course of the escapes. As for Ken himself, as years passed, it seems that the escapes at San Diego Zoo really had finally come to an end this time. Ken was living a simpler life in his enclosure, sat relaxing, eating, and flipping off children that walked by. Ken settled down for years to come.
He hates kids! Oh, I had no idea. He's a little child hater.
He had finally decided to behave himself and stayed put in his enclosure. He had
He's
truly
based.
given up on his old ways. Well, in the winter of 2000, the zookeepers noticed that Ken was acting out of the ordinary. He was moving erratically and seemed uncomfortable, so the staff sent him in for a visit with the zoo doctor. Ken was diagnosed with B-cell lymphoma, a form of blood cancer. Now, at first, doctors weren't too worried, as Ken was still young and fit and would most likely be able to fight off the disease. But sadly, as time went on, Ken's condition deteriorated, and the cancer had become more aggressive. The cancer that was now terminal. So the zookeepers decided that rather than letting Ken suffer, at the age of 29, on December 1st, 2000, Ken Allen was euthanized.
No! Did they at least, like, take him around for one more walk or, like, get him, like, a Happy Meal or something? Ken!
For chemotherapy were explored, but at this time, the therapy was mainly geared towards making Kenny as comfortable as possible. His condition
Kenny! Wait, he had a nickname!
had worsened over the last several days. Ken brought great joy to the San Diego Zoo for over 29 years. The loss of this type of animal is a great loss to our organization. This is a sad day at the San Diego Zoo. At 11:05 today, Ken Allen was put down.
The Orangang published a 2-page spread as a tribute to Ken.
The San Diego Zoo's animal care staff made the difficult decision to ease Kenny's suffering. Zoo Executive Director Douglas Myers took a hushed news conference. He was dearly loved and he will be sorely missed. Ken Allen was euthanized at 11:05 a.m. Aww. Oh, he respawned the day after. Oh, okay, that's good. I did want to hear about that. In a city with a strong love for zoo animals, Ken Allen held a unique place in the community's heart. During the 1980s, he gained a national recognition for his clever escapes and his knack for outsmarting his keepers. A headline writer dubbed him the Harry Houdini. A candlelit vigil will be held outside of his enclosure. Oh, tomorrow night, hosted by us. Anybody is welcome, and we urge you to come and pay your respects to Ken. He would have done the same for us. Aww. That would have been really nice if I died it and then Ken escaped his cage to come to my funeral.
And hosted a candlelit vigil for him.
He probably would.
He would have done the same for us. To this day, a plaque sits in San Diego Zoo in Ken Allen's honor. So there you go. The story of Ken Allen's numerous escapes from the San Diego Zoo. $45,000, t-shirts, bumper stickers, a fan club, a single, and a hell of a tale.
He doesn't have a tail. That's why he's not a monkey. Is it? Oh, there's a little bit more.
Made sure to link to the main sources that help to tell this story below if you want to read into it some more. And shout out to Count Dankula, who covered this story a while back with a hilarious retelling in his Absolute Mad Lad series, which actually led me to make this video and get Ken's story out there to more people. He also mentions in that video, made 4 years ago now, that orangutans are indeed an endangered species.
Orangutans are very smart and very gentle-natured creatures, but the World Wildlife Fund has classed them as critically endangered.
Not to bring a really sad story into this, but was the monkey or the ape that ripped that lady's face off, was that an orangutan? I think so.
And who would have guessed? 4 years later, nothing has changed. The steep decline in the number of orangutans in the wild means they are indeed still an endangered species.
Oh, okay.
With an estimated total of around 50,000 to 65,000
How did she even have
in
that?
the wild. 2,000 to 3,000 orangutans are killed every year. And if it continues at that rate, some experts predict that within...
eBay? Are you serious? Oh, you're joking.
50 years, there will be no orangutans left in the wild. So I've made sure to include a few links below to some charities. The Orangutan Project, where you can adopt an orangutan. The Orangutan Foundation, that do great work at protecting the tropical habitats that many wild orangutans call home. And orangutan.com, which is an all-round great resource to see what you can do to help, as well as the numerous charities helping to save orangutans from extinction. I've made a personal donation myself, and if you have any spare money left around, why not go and give it to some of these charities? I'd like to dedicate this video to Ken Allen. Good on you, mate. And to all of you that have made it this far in the video, thank you ever so much. And of course, thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring the video and making it all possible. You can give it a try for free on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox by using the link in the description.
Adopt an orangutan? Yeah, basically, like, adopt is that you pay for him to, like, be able to eat and stuff. Sometimes they let you name him, but they don't, like, send it to your house. That would be really dangerous. I always thought that, though, because the commercials would come on really, really late at home, and I would see, like, adopt a zoo animal or adopt a zebra at the zoo near you for only $1 a day. I was like, I get a free zebra for $1? Oh my god, no way! No.
Or in the pinned comment. New returning players that haven't played in 6 months will receive that big bonus pack mentioned earlier in the video, featuring premium vehicles and much more across all platforms. And it's all only available for a limited time only, so get it while you can. And with all of that said, goodbye!
He just fell over. That video was really good. I liked it, and I love you, Ken, and I will love you forever. My thumbs are kind of broken, but can we just pretend that's a heart and not like an oddly shaped oval? Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Have a good day. Bye-bye.